All right, this is regarding WWE Legends of Wrestling, the culture of Southern wrestling. Sorry about the light. We're just using daylight here. I don't know how it's going to show up, but we're going with it. Southern wrestling, the first time I heard the term was Nature Boy Buddy Landell was doing an In Your Head wrestling interview on In Your Head website. I love that where they quote Roddy Piper where he goes, "I'm here to chew some bubble gum and kick some ass, and I'm all out of bubble gum." That's from the John Carpenter film. Anyway, Legends of Wrestling, the culture of Southern wrestling. So Buddy Landell introduced the term to me. The first time I was involved with Southern wrestling was in the late 60s, early 70s. It came on 11 o'clock at night. We were living in Abilene, Texas. I was an Air Force brat. And the only thing I remember was Thunderbolt Patterson, who could hit people with his head and it could shake out of a headlock. I remember him, and I remember some white guy that you could punch in the stomach and it never seemed to bother him. That's all I remember. And we would beg our parents every night, every Saturday night, and it came on 11 to stay up and watch it, and we'd watch it, and we'd get up and go to church tired. We didn't care. We wanted to watch it. And it was in black and white, and I don't know who produced that. It might have been a funk thing. I don't know if the Funks had showed up yet. I don't know if Dory and Terry, and I think the Funks are juniors. So it might have been their dad. I don't know. But that was a promotion in Abilene, in West Texas. There was a famous town called Sweetwater, and I think some of the Wyndhams were from there. Black Jack Mulligan was from there, I believe. Anyway, that was when I first got exposed to that. And that was in Abilene. Then we moved up to Omaha. Then we moved to Arkansas. And that, I believe, is when we got exposed to big doses of Southern wrestling. And this was from Memphis. This would have been, 1976. And through 1982, I lived there, and I watched the Lawler organization, and I watched Georgia Championship Wrestling. At the time, I think I preferred Georgia Championship Wrestling with the great Gordon Soley. Greatest announcer of all time. He'd say, "He gives no quarter and he takes no quarter." So here's a Pier 6 brawl about to happen. I mean, he was unbelievable. And he would interview these guys, and nobody ever laid a hand on him. Nobody ever hurt him. Nobody did nothing. Anyway, let's go back to Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee. Memphis. I'm from Hollywood. Are you from Memphis, Tennessee? That's how Andy Kaufman did it. Andy Kaufman was in there, but that was later on. In the beginning, there was Jerry Lawler, Jackie Fargo, and Billy Dundee. Bill Dundee. Billy Superstar Dundee, the superstar. And these guys would just do it every week. Every week. Jackie was there at the beginning. Jackie was just something else. Jackie Fargo, he looked tough, and he looked the part, big barrel-chested dude, blonde hair. He had this swagger he'd have this strut. And he was, excuse my language, but he was the shit. He was definitely the shit. And Mr. Lawler, maybe the greatest wrestler of all time. He might blush at that, but he's got an argument for it. He's still drawing big checks. When he had his heart attack, everybody was concerned. Young people know about him. Old people know about him. He came there. He sent in artwork, according to the culture of Southern wrestling, and he got on as an artist, and then he got on as wrestler, and this guy could bring it. Mr. Lawler could bring it. He could bring it hard. He could wrestle. He had a great pile driver. He had that Tarzan look with that one side up. He was like 235, and I wouldn't mess with the guy. He looked like he could bring it. And they just brought in guys. I remember they bring in one guy that was a sheik that was supposed to catch him on fire, and he was intimidated by it. And, he started using fire. The Fabulous Freebirds. I remember when they came up. I remember Terry Gorder. I was working at the Navy base. It was on a Saturday when they came up, and everybody missed them. And I just have this flashes of being at the Navy base, working at the place. And I remember Terry Gorder going, "Yeah, my partner is so handsome, I don't even think you get to see him for a while. You know, he is so handsome, I don't even want you to look at him. You know, because, you know, we're the best. We're the Fabulous Freebirds." You know, something like that. And I remember they built it up the whole show. Okay? And then all of a sudden, they pulled it out, and there was Michael Hayes. And he was a handsome man. No question about it. Michael Hayes was probably the best looking wrestler of all time. I mean, you wouldn't know it now. He's a good looking guy now. I'm not gay or nothing, but this guy was handsome. He had the blonde hair, and he could bring it. And Mr. Gordy, he could bring it. These guys could bring it. I'm talking about it. They could bring it like a Southern Baptist. They could bring it like the Apostle. They could bring it. They could bring it. You know, they could bring it like, you know, like Holy Ghost power. Holy Ghost power. They could bring it. And them and Billy Dundee and Jerry Lawler took it on, and they wrestled, and I bet you they filled up the stadium. And the Freebirds, there were only two of them. And I remember my art instructor, a guy named Jed Jackson, a great artist. He's still painting. He even mentioned it about Andy Kaufman being there. And Andy Kaufman, he created a stir beyond imagination. He was wrestling women, and then he went down there and he did that whole thing. "I don't like Memphis, Tennessee. We're from Memphis, Tennessee." And he was making fun of him, and he was beating up this poor little old black lady to death. And then all of a sudden, Jerry pile-drived him. And we didn't even know that it wasn't real. We thought it was real. I didn't find out till the movie in 1999 that it was just a work. Danny DeVito got him to tell it. Because they went on the Letterman show, and Lawler slapped him upside the head. I mean, he hit him hard. He hit him hard. And then you got Georgia Championship Wrestling with the great Wildfire Rich. I mean, Wildfire was something. He was an incredible, incredible wrestler. I mean, raw bone guy, 240, you know, didn't look like he lifted weights. He didn't have no trouble. He never had no trouble doing any moves, doing any throws, anything he wanted to do. He was just throwing, and he was something else, you know. I remember, the biggest thing I remember is when Harley Race came in. You know, Harley Race, you know, "I'm the toughest man alive. I'm the toughest there is. There's nobody tougher than me. Yak, 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 yak. 8-time NWA champion. I'm the best. The toughest man on the planet." That was him. And he was. He was. He had these tats on him. And when he would hold that suplex, the guy's body would be standing, and he would drop it. Yeah, he was something else. He was something else. But anyway, for some reason, he didn't want to fight Wildfire Rich, and he paid somebody a bounty to hurt him, and they hurt Wildfire Rich, and I was all upset that they hurt him. It bothered me. You know, you were upset. I mean, you kind of knew that it wasn't real, but you were just so into it, you didn't care that it wasn't real. I mean, it was tremendous. And the greatest rivalry I remember was when Ole Anderson and Dusty Rhodes got into it. For some reason, I don't remember why, Dusty Rhodes invited Ole to be his partner out there, and they'd had a feud from before, and they worked it for a couple of weeks, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they had him in a cage, and there was these great big assassins just beat the hell out of poor Dusty. They just beat the living daylights out of him, and everybody was talking about it. Everybody.